At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
Edit audio.
And I think for a few days, I kept thinking after her passing, like, she's going to call me and explain this to me, or someone's going to say, oh, she's at this other airport. And as time began to pass, not even a little bit of time, I just was like, I'm really angry. I'm mad. She should be here.
Hello, and welcome back to the Be Well Sis podcast. I am your host, Dr. Cassandre Dunbar. Before we start this episode, I want to take a moment and honor someone who helped shape the very foundation of who I am. As I record this, I'm in the midst of planning the homegoing services for my grandmother. She was born in 1931 in Saint-Marc, Haiti, which is a coastal town where the ocean teaches you endurance, rhythm, and the respect for forces bigger than you. And that shaped her. She was not soft, but she was steady. Nor was she sentimental, but she demonstrated that love is and was an action and a responsibility. Love even as a truth-telling. She taught me what it meant to be strong and a liberated woman long before I had the language for feminism, womanism, or empowerment. Strength to her wasn't loud, but it was unwavering. She was a fierce woman, a real tough cookie. She never minced her words. She never softened the truth to make it easier to swallow. And yet she had this incredible sense of humor, always straight-faced. She rarely smiled, but she was hilarious. People would be doubled over laughing in her presence while she remained completely composed. Till this day, she is the funniest person I have ever met. And that's saying a lot because my husband is hilarious. She taught me the basics of life. She taught me how to manage your home, how to take pride in your space, how to care for yourself and for others. She taught me the importance of an education and curiosity. She was an avid reader and one of the smartest people I have ever known, even though she did not finish grade school. Even though her formal education was cut short, her understanding of the world was so vast. There were things that she taught me that at the time I dismissed. I thought they were just old sayings or just bush medicine. And later through science, through study, through my own training, I realized she was right. Much of what she knew was sound, evidence-based, even though the evidence hadn't yet been written down in the textbooks. She understood the body. She understood nature. She understood balance. She taught me that the world around us is sacred, that we're not only here to extract, to take, or to consume, but to give back, to honor the land, to respect what sustains us. And that lesson has stayed with me in ways that I'm still uncovering. In her last few years of life, she lived with advanced dementia. And in many ways, I've been grieving her for a long time. Grieving her presence, her sharpness, her wit, her voice, even while she was physically still here. Loving someone through that kind of loss changes you. It teaches you that grief isn't just about death, it's also about absence, transition, and memory. She was a very complicated woman, and my relationship with her taught me very early that people are complex, that love can coexist with difficulty, and that reverence doesn't require perfection. That you can honor someone fully without pretending that they were simple. And in today's conversation with Rachel Eliza Griffiths, we talk deeply about grief, about what it means to lose someone you love at a moment when life is supposed to be opening. Rachel writes in her book, The Flower Bearers, about losing her closest friend on her wedding day and how that kind of loss permanently reshapes how you understand love, joy, and presence. So before we step into that conversation, I wanted to lift my grandmother's name and to let her presence be here. To acknowledge the wisdom that I carry, the questions that I ask, the way I hold space for stories like this, so much of which began with her. So this episode is for her. As always, thank you so much for being here. Let's hop into this conversation. Be well, sis. So let's talk about what inspires you writing this really powerful memoir about a time in your life. So if you can set the groundwork for folks.
The Flower Bearers is my first memoir that I'm writing. It's about love. I think that's what it's really about, how love can help you survive and endure, but also thrive and grow and change you. So the memoir follows two threads of two different events that happened within 1 year of my life. In 2021, I married my husband, and on that same day, my closest chosen sister died suddenly and changed my life. We had grown up as girls, we was girls together as writing students in the graduate program at Sarah Lawrence College in New York. And we had an amazing sisterhood for 17 years. And we still have it now because I talk to her all the time. But in that moment in 2021, on my wedding day, I received the news that she had passed. And the drama, the pain, the shock of that is still something I am not on the other side of. I don't think I ever will be on the other side of that grief. In the memoir, I describe it as the best and worst day of my life.
Yeah.
A few months later, my husband, who is also an author, he was almost murdered at a public event in Chautauqua, New York. And so within months of each other, these two great loves of my life, one dying and the other almost being murdered, happened. And so my whole life changed, and the person I used to be changed. And so the Flower Bears is my attempt to celebrate the victory of love, to also have it on the record for my future self of who I used to be, how I loved, and how I will continue to love. It's about becoming an artist. My dear sister Aisha and I, when we were young, we just knew we were, these young Black women poets who would go hear Sister Sonia Sanchez and go see Toni Morrison and Sister Nikki Giovanni. And we had this village. And we believed that we belonged to stand in that village, always aware of the shoulders and wings we were standing on. And so we took ourselves very seriously, but we always managed to find time to dance, to have meals together, to hold space with each other. And so the Flower Bearers is truly about that relationship of friendship and sisterhood between Black women. And it also is then connected to how that relationship survived and helped me have the strength to deal with the event that almost murdered my husband.
Thank you for sharing. I know speaking about someone that you loved who's no longer here can be hard. Tell me something about Aisha. I know that she was a classmate of yours, and you guys, were poets, and you guys were in the literary field together, and you had that same passion and that vibrance for life and things together. What else can you share about her and about your relationship? What comes to mind right now?
I remember meeting her at Sarah Lawrence, but it was that wonderful thing that sometimes happens when you walk into a room and you see a Black woman, and there's so much you don't have to explain because you're just seen, and you're excited because you know and hope that this woman is going to be in your life for the rest of your life. And that's how I felt when I met her. And so I remember one of the things we bonded about was that when we were young, we both had Wonder Woman costumes, and we both had pictures of ourselves in our Wonder Woman costumes. And so it was this kind of beautiful moment. We would sometimes through the years talk about how when we were young with our lassos of truth and our little Wonder Woman costumes with our crown on our little Afro puffs, nobody could tell us anything because we were Wonder Women. And as we got older, it became a language, and she would be like, "Oh, you need to put your Wonder Woman on for this situation." And I would be like, "Oh, do we need to get Wonder Woman in this room?" And so it became this thing with us where sometimes we would have a hard moment and I'd be like, "Okay, real talk, lasso of truth. And she would be like, okay, lasso of truth, let's go.
Mhm.
And so she had this way of listening, and she could kind of hear behind the words of what you were trying to say and get you closer to what you needed to say, that your body needed to hear you say. And then you could put it in the water. So we had this physical language where that eyebrow would go up, or we would have plates of food. And just by the way she might fold her napkin, I would be like, oh, we got to get out of here. She's done. She just folded the napkin. The napkin folding was epic.
Time to wrap
It's
it up.
over. Wrap it up. Be good, good. Bye. Peace. All good. Bye. So it's just things like that,
Yeah.
I only had that with her. And so I
Mhm.
grieve that. I miss that. I'm grateful to carry these kind of little private personal memories or parts of our language forward. I think
Mhm.
that's something that's really beautiful between women, between mothers, daughters, cousins, aunties, your neighbors,
Yeah.
your chosen family, that
Yes.
you can be that witness and keep it going. And
Yeah.
I love how poetry and art and writing and music and dance, all of these things that we're able to do to communicate are really special to me.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that about her. I kind of want to go back a little bit and talk about the day, your wedding day, where you got the news. Again, the best day of your life, also the worst day of your life. Can you kind of set the stage as to what you were doing when you found out? Was it during the nuptials, after, before?
So on that day, I remember the sky. It was September 24th, and it was a beautiful day. I mean, it was really bright. I have my only sister, my baby sister, and she, I think, was kind of, by my side, wanting everything to go beautifully for me. And so when I think about what happened that day, my family and friends made a bubble around myself and my husband. And so the evening before the wedding, there were some questions about, had Aisha arrived? Had she gotten to Delaware, which is where I married? And people were having a difficulty trying to reach her. And I thought, oh, her phone battery, because that used to be a running thing with us. We talked to her phone battery, the wheels would fall off, like the battery was dead. And so I'm like, oh, it's probably her battery, or maybe there's a flight delay. And I remember in the morning getting up, and sometimes you have moments, there's just a little shadow on the edge of things, and you don't know what it is yet. I'm very intuitive. So I kept having this, I don't know, this feeling that even though I was looking at this kind of sunlit world, something wasn't aligning, something was not right. But then you think, well, maybe I'm nervous about getting married. But I really wasn't nervous about getting married because I was very certain and wanted to get married. So I
Mhm.
think, you're putting on the dress, it's your day, and there's this, this archetypal symbolic meaning to women and their wedding days and what that means. And that's, a global thing. And so the day happened, I was told that Aisha wasn't going to be at the wedding because she had COVID. And because I had some other cousins and friends who had COVID and sent their regrets, I was very upset and sad and worried about, was she okay? Did she need anything? But I just thought, oh, we're coming out of the pandemic.
Mhm.
The wedding was very small. Everyone had to get tested. It was still like a whole thing, and it was very, very small, but I accepted that. And then it's like, I'm putting on my veil, I'm putting on my little shoes, and I'm getting married, and I'm excited. I'm going to jump over the broom, and we're going to have cake, and later we're going to have a house party and dance and all of this. And so later in the day, just after the portraits were done, I couldn't find my cell phone. And I started to get very agitated because I'm not someone who really loses my phone. I know where my phone is, but I'm like, I can't take pictures. I can't take video. And I also want to check on Aisha. Where's my phone? And later on, I would find out that I have two brothers that I adore, and they're all beautiful. My siblings are like a pack. We're like a pack. So they had quietly taken my phone because online the news had already spread that she had passed, and so they created this bubble where finally I really lost my temper and just was like, I want my phone. Take me back to the hotel. Stop playing with me. What's going on here? And no one was really looking at me in my eyes or in my face anymore. And I was like, what? Something's wrong here. The body language is like a veil. And so when I got back to the room, another beautiful chosen sister, Angela, who was in the memoir, was helping me find my iPad. And when I opened my iPad to find my phone, there was just the whole screen was text messages of, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I kind of blacked out, to be honest. After that, I remember kind of looking down at my body and there was this like bride, but the pain. And I was like, I'm not going back in that body. I just can't. I can't bear this pain. And I had to kind of ask other people what happened. I have flashes from time to time, but I think sometimes the body protects you. Yep. I have no memory of taking off my wedding dress, my shoes. I remember at one point before I went unconscious, I could see my bouquet and I could see the flowers and the roses. And I remembered how it smelled. And I thought, this can't be. I'm going to die. I think I'm going to die. It just felt so awful.
Yeah.
And, you have this beautiful dress on and you screaming and then it's just a light switch.
Yep.
That was the day. And when I woke up and came back conscious, I was in pajamas. It was like the wedding day never existed almost. It was just, I was surrounded by love, but I also was like shocked. I couldn't really talk or move my body. I don't know how they moved me and got the dress and the veil, the hair, all of the things on a wedding that are so special, and things that, I love hearing women who are in their like 70s or 80s, describe their wedding day and what they wore, their mother's dress or what happened. But what has happened to me is that I've started to have women write to me who have also had traumatic wedding experiences, traumatic wedding days. Folks like to see that in a movie because that's tea or that's entertaining.
Yeah.
But if you're someone and that's your wedding day, you can't really describe it. Yeah. But worse than that, because the wedding day is a wedding day. Worse than that is my friend is not here and I didn't even know she left. She died, and that just a shock because I just seen her for my bridal party and I had hugged her and she was there. That was like a few days, a week or so before. So how could this have happened? And then there's just people die suddenly and there's no reason. You don't know what happened. So that was kind of the day. Yeah. And, I write about it in the memoir, a different version of myself died that day. When I came back at the end of the day, I was just like, I'm nothing. I don't know how I'm going to make it. So that was what that day was like. And I still have blacked out parts of the day. I know some paramedics came and I think a tranquilizer or something, but that was my wedding day.
Wow. I appreciate you reliving that day and sharing with me. I have like chills. That's something. Like of all days, because there's so much like adrenaline that's coursing through because it's like a great day. And then to be knocked down in learning that something that you love so deeply is no longer is, whew. How did you start to work through the anger and just all the things that you felt in the first initial months?
Well, in the first initial months, I didn't even take care of my body, really, because I couldn't, the grief, it felt like it was eating me alive. So the roller coaster of trying to get through a day where I'm crying, if I even went to bed, I don't want to eat. I want to eat. I don't want to shower. I have to shower. Oh, here's some work emails because people have to work. Not wanting to be around friends, desperately needing to be around friends, and not being able to keep food down. A lot of my hair fell out, my eyes, my whole face. I couldn't look in mirrors because I'm like, this isn't me. I don't know who this is. This looks like a possessed, crazy person, not me. And so for the first few months, I was a ghost. I was just haunted. I just was like, I don't accept this. And that was the anger is if I don't accept this, it just can't be true. And I think for a few days, I kept thinking after her passing, like, she's going to call me and explain this to me, or someone's going to say, oh, she's at this other airport. And as time began to pass, not even a little bit of time, I just was like, I'm really angry. I'm mad. She should be here. And no one's to blame. No one's at fault. Nothing. So I don't have anything to just say, well, I can put all my rage here. And so it strips you. I just felt very stripped down and skinless. And I think it's different when you lose a mother or a father, or like, that's a little bit different than, it's almost a sister.
Yeah.
A big sister for me because she was a few years older than me, but we were both elder sisters. And so our stories of eldest daughter syndrome and eldest daughter, we really understood each other in so many ways. But I didn't take care of myself. The nightmares and the crying and not sleeping. I had to get on medication, anxiety. I couldn't be around people. I could not do small talk. And then I just also thought, this is never going to end. This is going to be who I am now, because for the last 17 years of my life, this person I talk to almost every day, multiple times a day, stay up all night on the phone talking like our mamas used to do, isn't here. So am I even present? Do I exist?
Yeah.
And my mind would just shut down on me. It was like origami or dominoes. All I had to do was just touch one domino and it would just be like, boom, game over, crash out. And the shame too, I think, because I couldn't pull it together. I couldn't be in rooms. I couldn't really talk sometimes, or I would feel embarrassed or worried that like, well, how can I go in this room? Because I don't even hear these people. My mind's drifted off. I don't know what they're asking me. Why are they asking me anything? Like, what do they want from me? But it wasn't about anything external, really. It was the internal that was just completely burnt to the ground. Yeah. It was like a wildfire had just left a whole devastated world inside me.
Our culture, I say this a lot, our culture does such a disservice at how we are taught and how we are modeled grief. But we're only given maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month if you're lucky, to like take a beat and try to start to process what we're experiencing before having to hop back into these meetings and produce and do all of these things. And I hate that you carried shame and we don't give ourselves the time, and the world, unfortunately, does not give us the time or the space to start to begin to process something. So, a loss, a profound loss.
But also, I learned from a young age not to take people, experiences, things for granted, to try to be grateful. Even if I'm crying, there's something that maybe as an artist, there's something that I can dream or imagine or just witness and say, okay, I'm this being inside this story. And this is who I love. And this is how I'm loving. And this is what I'm going to choose. But when you're a child, you don't really have a brain that can do that. Right. You're in survivor mode. Your brain is not going to put a context around things that later, with years of therapy, I can now say, well, I can look at this now in a very different way. And I'm not living it now. It's the past. But we in our community historically have to live with the past all the time.
Yep.
And so, and past that is often traumatizing or violent, but also excellent and celebratory and beautiful too. It's just trying to put more of a spotlight on that that resilience and joy. I don't want to leave joy out of this conversation.
For sure. Do you think that your upbringing, do you think that that helped birth the creator inside of you? Because you are a poet, you are an artist, right? Do you think that that laid a foundation in any way? Or that's just separate, just inherently you?
I think it's a little of both. I know my earliest memories of joy were drawing with my brothers, writing stories. I still have my diary from kindergarten. And so I was always, art and creating and storytelling was always something in me. And I think it was part of maybe the superpower that helped me have resilience, because rather than almost be able to look at something as it was and let that beat me down or burden me or wear me down, I would try to ask a question or make beauty from it or make something powerful from it to show myself that there could be something more to whatever real-time experience I might be having. And so I've always just known when I was little, I want to play on this typewriter. I want to draw. I want to paint. A few years ago, I found a photograph of myself. I must be maybe 3 or 4, and I'm holding a little camera at a DC family reunion, and I'm holding a flower in one hand, and I have the camera, and my face is so intense, and I'm looking, and it's like my first self-portrait at like age 4. Someone took the picture, but I have my own little camera, a film camera, and a flower. And so I kept that picture on my desk while I was working on the flower bearers to understand this book is about these recent experiences, but I was already a flower bearer when I was a child. Before trauma, before things, I wanted to make pictures. I wanted to tell stories. And so I do think of it as a thing that has helped me activate me, help me withstand things that maybe would have taken me out of this world or put me in a hospital or, again, another topic in community, mental health. It's everything. It really is. And all of these things coming together, art has often been a way for me to explore mental health.
As you were dealing with the initial stages of grief of losing Aisha, and then just a few months later dealing with possibly losing, the real reality of possibly losing your husband, did you take steps backwards in your healing journey? What did it do? Did you pivot your journey? What emerged from that?
I definitely feel as though my husband's, the attack on him disrupted what was already a very traumatizing grief journey. So it was about 10 to 11 months later. So I still was kind of on the floor about Aisha. I was on the floor, not kind of. I was still a wreck. And then suddenly there was a present moment of, you now do not have time. You do not have bandwidth. You have to be present and focus and use all your strength to focus on what is happening right now in front of you. And I couldn't hold both of those events or both of the feelings, the intensity of feelings of both of these events and the grief, the terror, the shock in my hands. And so I had to put one up and I had to just say, this isn't going anywhere, but I can't breathe and move and act and help my husband if I'm still crying. I'm a mess. I just had to really dive very deep within to the bottom of whatever inner strength I have, which is given to me by ancestors and by love, and say, okay, what do I need to do? And then to learn there are things within my control. There are things beyond my control. there's a moment where something is happening and I have to say, that's not on me. Because I think there's also a pressure, particularly for a Black woman, for us to take on the yoke of everybody's situation, and be, as Zora Hurston said, that, the mules of the world. Like, this is a non-mule energy environment here. What I will do, and what I can't, I have to put it down, because my body too was really in a very unsafe place. The panic attacks, sometimes my heart, I would be having palpitations. My eyes would blur, the brain fog, my lower back would just go out, and my legs started doing these spasms where it was like, I remember one day I had to crawl up the steps because my legs just kind of went out. And then I realized, I thought, you know what, this will kill you. You need to stop. You're going to have a stroke or a heart attack, or you're going to be in the hospital. And then how are you going to make this? How are you going to survive? I didn't get to grieve on any kind of timeline what was happening. It was like behind a veil, all of the grief with Aisha, because of what was happening with my husband, and how the spotlight on what was happening with him, I had to focus on that. And I feel it was a blessing that when my mom got ill very young, when I was, 11, 12 years old, being in the hospital, seeing that environment, knowing how that worked, helped me in some way. It was like, this is the thing sometimes mothers do. It was like all her suffering, all her strength, all her survival came back to me. I felt like she was always with me when I was in the hospital, in the trauma ward, trying to take care of my husband. But I also felt, oh, Aisha's there, and Aisha's mother is there, and I will just do whatever I can do with grace. And that's all I can do for now. And so once my husband was able to get out of the hospital and go through a lot of rehabilitation, if I even think within that kind of 11-month span of what was happening, I feel as if I died 3 or 4 times trying to understand a way to be, and then suddenly here's another thing. And I just it was just like, oh, I have to die again, because it's like a phoenix or a cat with 9 lives. And then I finally was just like, I might have 2 lives left in me. I can't keep going under. And so after he was stabilized, he published a memoir about his attack. I then began my true healing for both Aisha, for my husband, for myself. And so now my grief journey is also my healing journey. My healing journey allows me to grieve in ways now that empower me, that strengthen me, that hold me. And that makes me present for everybody around me who was so generous and compassionate and tried to help me and take care of me. I missed community. I missed being able to go out and be with folks, but I just couldn't. And so now, around this time last year, actually, I was just like, okay, it's time for me, full stop. I have to stop. And it's, what do I want to do? I ask my inner child, what brings me joy? What are the things I'm going to release? What are destructive things I'm doing to myself because I think I don't deserve joy or care or love or respect? And it's, grown is a lifestyle. It's just not a word. And so I just felt like I crossed the threshold about a year ago. But when I look at the passage of time, it's 2026. My friend passed 5 years ago, and I still, especially with all of the beautiful things that arrive for the book, I cry like a baby because it's her that I want to call her like, girl.
Yeah.
Guess what? Guess who, like, my girl? Guess what? Girl, you need to see my art. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute. And then I'm like, okay, let me sit with this weather, because this too shall pass. But healing, surviving, thriving. It's an action. I was talking for a long time. I'm going to just change. I'll just get this together sooner or later. But then when my body started spasming and these seizure things I was having, I was like, oh, one day when you're in the ground, you don't have any more time to say one day. It's today. Do one small thing. And for me, it was small wins, small things so that I could look back and say, I did this, then I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this. But also, it isn't just it's we, because I'm carrying the spirit and love for all of those present and living and not here. They're all cheering me on too. So this kind of loneliness that grief can give you, or you think you're the only one. I think of James Baldwin when he says, you think you're alone and then you read. I had stacks of memoirs. I had stacks of, self-help books, grief books, complicated grief, ambiguous loss, self-love. And around last year, I was like, oh, you have to love up on Rachel Eliza so hard. And that's where I'm at now. And I love it. I do. I love myself. I love where I've come from. I love how I care for other people and want to show up for them. I love Aisha. I love my husband. And, I love being in this space with you, that I get to speak with you and meet you and witness your light and what you're doing, gathering us all in community. So I want to be sure to tell you that. And whoever is listening, I see you and I appreciate you, everybody.
I was going to ask you, who is this book for? And you answered who this book is for. Honestly, ultimately, I think it's for all of us. We're all grieving someone or something in some way, shape, or form. So thank you for taking a really trying and tragic time and creating something for us to be able to learn through, heal through, grow through. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Before we wrap though, I would love to know, where can the people find you?
Great. So thank you for that question. Instagram is Rachel Eliza Griffiths, and my website is www.rachelelizagriffiths.com. And you can order the book on Random House or your local favorite indie bookstore, or wherever you like to order books, stacks and stacks of books. And that's where you can find me. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Be Well Sis. If you'd like to get in touch with us, there's a link in the show notes. Be Well Sis is hosted by me, Dr. Cassandre Dunbar, and produced by Edit Audio. Don't forget to hit follow so you never miss an episode. Until next time, be well, sis.